All right, welcome into hour two. So anything else we want to hit on with the Kenny? Oh, by the way, I got the PFF grade. Our predictions were
Way off.
77 for me, Jacob 75, Tim 80, and Emilio 78. His PFF.
God, was I bad? Holy cow, was I off? Can I take a guess? I'm going to guess he's grading well below 70. I'm going to say
64.
66.2.
59.3.
Good.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
And again, PFF isn't everything. But, guys, run stops, sacks, his pressure percentage this year, Lord have mercy. If we sorted by pressure percentage, if I can get this to pull up, of course it disappeared. I think it's in 6. I think it's 6%. I think it was like 6.5. Why did everything just go all to hell all of a sudden? They're like, you don't want to see this, Clayton. Trust me. Screen completely reset. You don't want to see this pressure percentage. I promise you. Pressure percentage, I'm not going to sort it because it may make it wonky. 6.8%, guys. 6.8%.
It's not good.
Not that good, bub. To put that into perspective, TJ Slayton, 2% more pressure rate.
What?
Than Kenny Clark. That's why I was saying if TJ Slayton doesn't warrant like this huge contract, I want to see him back. Listen, did he make a mistake last night? Yeah, he did. He shouldn't have threw Saquon down. Just like Keyshawn on the sideline shouldn't have done it. It's just amazing to me that someone can launch themselves like a missile with the crown of their helmet, right, into another person's face, no flag. But the defensive lineman throws a running back on the ground, 2 seconds after the whistle, and it's, whoa, we got to protect the players here, a little strange. Kind of goes hand in hand with our boy Brad Allen having more calls in favor of the home teams all year long.
And the money line.
And the money line.
Are you talking about this tool right here?
God, I tried to uppercut that guy, but you'd miss the chin. You can't even connect with that thing.
You can't. Good luck putting him in a guillotine. He's sliding right out of there.
He's a snake.
Yeah. This dirtbag. My favorite thing this year has been scumbag and dirtbag when talking about the officials. Knowing they're good people. They're good people. They just, I just love it. It's awesome. We got some good news. Can we talk good news for a second?
That would be nice.
That'd be cool.
Tim said, yeah, that'd be great. Let's change that up a bit. So we talked about Josh Myers and how bad that injury looked, right? Now, I want to say this on the front side. You guys know I've been very vocal this year. I do not want to have Josh Myers back as the center for the Green Bay Packers. That's just me personally. Goody might completely disagree, right? Probably does. He's going, that redneck said it. I'm doing the opposite. He'd probably win more games that way. But I'm not a big fan of Josh Myers, the football player. We were thinking, boy, oh boy, that injury last night, it's probably going to really hurt his free agency. It sounded like we got good news. At by Ryan Wood on Twitter said Josh Myers walked out of the locker room with me on crutches. I didn't know if Ryan was on crutches, if he borrowed his crutches, the way that's worded there. He walked out of the locker room with me on crutches, but wearing a walking boot. He thinks his leg might have a hairline fracture, but not sure. Much better than initially feared. Quote, all things considered, he said, I think I got lucky. I thought they were going to say that bone was shattered. The fact that we're looking at only a hairline fracture, again, I don't think this plays a role into the Packers re-signing him or not re-signing him or what have you. I felt like they were going to let him test the market anyway. But, man, that made me feel so much better because that broke my damn heart seeing that happen 3 minutes before he was set to hit free agency, right?
Yep. And you think of what he's been through this year. It's real easy as a lot of the fan base talks trash about these guys as if they're not human beings. You claim to be a fan, but you could really give a rat's ass about these players at the end of the day based on how a lot of you talk about them. I think it's great news, and hopefully we'll know more as time progresses once, they do more x-rays or whatever they're going to do to find out exactly what's going on. But that was terrifying last night. That could impact his career going forward, in the long run. And I think you're right, Clayton. You said it very well. Not a huge fan of Josh as a player at center sometimes, but man, as a teammate, as a dude, as a person, it's a resilient guy, man. You hate to see that kind of stuff, especially so late in a game like that. And I'm just glad that he got some good news today.
Yeah, me too, man, for sure. Jacob, anything to add to the Josh Myers talk there, man?
No, not really. It's just we got to figure out a backup situation there, or just a replacement. I think that in my mind right now, it'd be interior D-line, interior O-line are our biggest glaring needs. I don't know if you guys would agree with that, but just both sides of the ball, we got to solidify the interior and the defensive lines, in my opinion.
No, I completely agree. And again, you got beat up front. When you talk about a 3-tech, would a 3-tech last night, a great 3-tech, have won you that game with the way it unfolded? Probably not, right? But boy, oh boy, if you'd had a better, more solid interior offensive line, I would have liked our chances a lot more. Jordan's still got to protect the football. And again, when you look at the interceptions, if we were to, let's try to defend Jordan for a minute, right? The deep shot to Dontavion Wicks, that's a one-on-one shot play that you can tell was called that, hey, look, the running game we can't really get going. Underneath, they are smothering the ball. I told you, Mandy watching the game, when she said, it feels like they're playing with 16 defenders out there, right? Yep. So what was open? You had one-on-one shot plays on the sideline. It felt like LaFleur said, Jordan, let's go out there and rip it. See if you can hit on one of these shot plays so we can soften this defense up, right? The ball, in my opinion, fairly accurate ball, hell of a play by the DB. I put it more on Dontavion Wicks, has got a battle for that football, right? Let me put it this way. If Romeo Doubs is the receiver on that play, he is slowing down, and at worst case scenario, the defender is going to hit him as he goes up to catch the football. You got to know how to track it, slow yourself down, create that wall on the DB. That way, if they make a play on the ball, they got to go through you to make it. I mean,
hands. You need late hands like Rome has too. That was the other thing that kind of screwed us on that play, is the hand action kind of snitched on what was going on, and Slay was able to make a veteran play on that ball. You got to have late hands in that situation.
Yeah. So that interception there, I kind of looked at and went, I understand that. The throw to Zach Bond, one of the worst interceptions I've ever seen in my entire life, right? Then the other interception to Bo Melton that was going to Bo Melton, guys, that was pass interference. There's no two ways about it. Another example of huge play that did not go our way, where a defender is back to the ball, tackling Bo Melton as he's trying to get back through him to catch the ball. And, of course, Quinyon Mitchell goes and picks it off. Ryan Pack Daddy on Twitter had a great tweet about that as well, where he said it was the the NFL account tweeted it out, saying it was a great play. They called it Quinyon Bay or something like that is what they called it. And Ryan pointed out, like, oh, so you guys are literally bragging about missing this pass interference call right here? Like, this is wild. So,
and they're bragging on helmet-to-helmet hits and,
it's weird. Really weird night for sure. Yeah. All right. So we got that covered. Trying to think if there was anything else we wanted to – listen, Eagles fans, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this. We had a great experience with Eagle fans all week long. I want to preface what I'm about to say.
Yeah, we weren't in Philly, though, for the game.
Bingo. In the chat all week long, the Eagles fans that came through, very respectful. So I think it's important to not group a whole fan base, as, hey, these 2, 3, 10, however many there were out of tens of thousands of people at a stadium, this is how their fan base completely is. They have a bad reputation, that goes without saying. But this right here cracked me up. Language on this. Language. Everybody on the YouTube channel, language. Okay, don't let the kids read the screen right now. All right. Matt Schneiden tweeted this out. We've lost contain here in the press box. Drunk woman who's an Eagles fan right in front of the window is heckling Robert Saleh and other bald folks in our row and calling them, quote, bald MFers. He tagged Rob Domofsky and said, Rob Domofsky just banged on the glass and told her to sit the F down. So I thought it was, listen, dirtbag move by the fans, but I thought it was hilarious that Rob Domofsky was coming to Robert Saleh's aid, if that tweet was indeed accurate. He could have been joking. It got a good pop out of me when I needed a good pop last night. I'll just say that. So, Eagles fans, if you guys follow Baz, feel free to retweet my tweet there. Let's find out who that scumbag is and make sure he never attends an Eagles game again.
That scumbag would still be picking up his teeth if he'd have said that to my wife. I'll tell you that right now.
And that's one of those
happily things. Went into that little jail at the CenturyLink there in Philly. No problem.
Yeah. And the issue I had more so than that, like as a man, you're sitting there and someone calls your wife that and you got it on camera. Yeah, I probably would have did the same thing, Tim.
Yep.
The person who doesn't, I also get that. because you should be able to attend a freaking football game and not have to deal with that. Right?
Very true. Very true.
And the thing that bothers me is the Eagles guys, fans around that whole section watching it happen, and they didn't have a damn thing to say. They just kind of, well, he's just an Eagles fan. Let's just sit here and let him take it. You guys need a skirt. You guys are this big because you know that Packers fan is about to get kicked out of the stadium if he swings. And you got someone who probably spent hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to go to a playoff football game, take your wife in there and try to watch a game, and that happens. I understand the person that's like, all right, just ignore them. We're wasting a lot of money if we get thrown out of here right now. Me, I'm with you, Tim. I'd have been down there in the clink with you playing cards. That's what we'd have been doing. But I understand trying to hold you. But those other guys, they should have stepped up and said, hey, man, shut the hell up. Get away. Get away, or I'm going to get security down here to have you hauled out. You're an embarrassment to our fan base. I know this. If that had happened at Lambeau, there would have been Packer fans standing up going, shut up, dude. Shut up or get out.
For sure.
Look at Jacob scrolling through Twitter trying to find it.
I didn't want to bring it up. I just want to see what happened.
Yeah. So anything you guys want to add to that? Again, shout out to Baz. Baz is one of the best human beings I've ever talked to on Twitter. I think he's awesome. It's a damn shame you can't go to a football game and have to deal with that. There's nothing wrong with talking a little trash. That's okay. But you guys watch the video, you'll hear what they said. So it is what it is, right?
Terrible.
Absolutely terrible, Chuck. All right, so let's see here. Upcoming free. This is interesting here. Let's kind of shift gears into offseason mode. Is that good with you guys? I wanted to hit on the game a little bit. We talked about the penalties. We talked about, where we struggled last night, where we got beat up and lost the game outside of the penalties. Obviously, Jordan Love, Matt LaFleur conversation. Let's see who's leading that poll question, and we'll move on. Jordan Love is leading the way at 64% to Matt LaFleur's 36%. Again, the question was Homer and Tausch on the postgame show for ESPN Madison last night. Who are you more concerned with going into the 2025 season? So it seems like our viewers are way more concerned with Jordan Love than they are Matt LaFleur, although we got to throw out there, I believe they would have voted for a third option of I'm not concerned with either, overly concerned with either going into the season. So just want to put that out there. Now, free agency mode. Dara Carriger on Twitter, shout out to Dara, does a great job. Packers income or upcoming free agents and how many snaps they played in 2024. Josh Myers, 93% of the snaps this year at center. He was available, boys. No one can say that Josh Myers is made of glass and all those ridiculous things that people have said about other Packer players. He was available. Was he accountable? That's the question, right? His teammates loved him. They voted him as their whatever it was, teammate to overcome the most or whatever it was, that award they have. You could tell he's got the respect of the locker room. The play just isn't there, in my opinion, but 93% of the snaps at center. Isaiah McDuffie, 68% of the snaps at linebacker. Now, that number is going to be dramatically lower if he were to return to the Packers, because we know it's going to be Edgerrin Cooper and Quay Walker on the field. If Quay is completely healthy come week one, we'll still await that injury news. It looked pretty bad, but I can't imagine it's going to be something that carries over in the next year. Tim, you're a big Quay Walker fan, obviously. Do you see anything? Have you seen anything in regards to that injury that would make you think it would carry all the way over to next season? I don't think so.
I don't think so either. But I guess we'll know more once we find out just how bad he tweaked it there last night. But yeah, I'm thinking hopefully he rehabs and a little bit of R&R in the offseason. Hopefully he comes back strong next year.
Yeah. Jacob, anything you want to add there to the Josh Myers, Isaiah McDuffie talk before we get into some of these others? So we'll kind of take it two at a time here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see McDuffie coming back, especially because I would rather take like a Eric Wilson and get him back. But I'm grateful. I've always been a fan of McDuffie, but I just think that time's probably came to an end. Same with Josh Myers. Thank you for your service, but probably going to be moving on.
Got it. All right. I think we're all in agreement there. If you can get McDuffie back for pennies on the dollar, absolutely. Let him test the market. If you can get him on a minimum or damn near a minimum, I'm okay with him coming back because he understands the defense. He's a pretty good run defender. He is cheeks and pass coverage. And he was a special teams contributor before, I think, about halfway through last year. So he's someone that if he can be your backup plan at linebacker and be a huge special teams contributor, I wouldn't mind having him back for the right price. But as far as Josh Myers, again, I think that the market, if his injury isn't crazy, is going to be far over what I'm willing to pay Josh Myers to come back. So Eric Stokes
with McDuffie and Wilson, I think it's one, not both, right? So you're going to look at
good point.
Regardless of how the market looks, price wise, things like that. Which one of those guys are you leaning towards? It's kind of tough because I'm almost with Jacob. I kind of like Eric Wilson a little bit better, but I also like McDuffie. I've always been a McDuffie fan as well, especially in that run game, like you said. So I don't see a scenario where both of those guys are back. Possibly one, but not both.
Yeah. So the next two, like Tim mentioned there with Eric Wilson, we got Eric Stokes, 54% of the snaps this year. Eric Wilson, 51% of the snaps, and he led the special teams in snaps. So, yeah, if you had to choose between Isaiah McDuffie and Eric Wilson, I would choose Eric Wilson. I think Eric Wilson's age will probably keep his free agent market from getting too out of control, as where McDuffie is young enough, being 26, I think. He's probably going to get a little more interest than Wilson. In terms of Stokes, I feel like you let him walk, but we'll go around the horn with that. I'll start with you this time, Tim. Eric Stokes and Eric Wilson. You kind of talked about Eric Wilson. You're saying for the right price, you want Eric Wilson back, right? And then how do you feel about Stokes as the season ends here? He showed a little promise at the end, but what do you think about that, man?
Yeah, I think they're going to let him test the market. I don't think anyone truly believes they're going to bring him back, but I would not be surprised if he was signed to, I don't know, 3-year deal or something for the cheap. If the market is weak for him, because he's a guy who's been here since his rookie season. He understands what's going on inside the closed doors at 1265. Stokes is a good teammate. Stokes has not been the liability that he has been in the past when he's on the field. So I will say that. I think you have seen somewhat of an improvement, but he's definitely not a shutdown corner. He's not that star dude you want. So I don't know. I don't think they'll bring him back at all, but you never know. Crazier things have happened.
Yeah. Jacob, what do you think about Eric Stokes and Eric Wilson?
Yeah, like I said earlier, I'd rather have Wilson back over McDuffie if we could, just because of the special teams presence. And I just think he's just an all-around better fill-in linebacker, I guess. As far as Stokes goes, he's one of those guys where I just think we've seen what he is, and it's nothing personal, but I would rather try to give somebody else those snaps and see what they can do with it.
Okay. TJ Slayton played 39% of the snaps. You guys have just pointed out he had a 2% higher pressure rate than Kenny Clark. He had, I think he had equally or more run stops than Kenny with far fewer snaps too. Let me see here. Run stops. TJ Slayton had 24. Kenny Clark had 28. But keep this in mind. Snaps overall, run D snaps, Kenny had 44 more run D snaps than TJ Slayton. And TJ Slayton only had 4 less run stops than him. So 2% higher pressure rate, a higher run stop percentage rate as well than Kenny. That's why I'm kind of looking at TJ going, you know what? If he doesn't have a crazy market, get him back here on a cheap deal. I really feel like that. Many fans this morning, maybe it's rightfully so, are going to disagree with that because of that crucial penalty at the end of the game last night. Again, I don't look at that penalty and go, that cost us the game. Still sucks, though. But TJ Slayton, Corey Ballantyne, I think we all agree, let him test the market. We can get him back on a minimum. Okay, cool. But TJ Slayton, how do we feel about him, fellas?
I'd pay him, but not the bag, nothing too crazy. And I'm with you. I don't think we should let one foolish choice on the field dictate, how you're going to evaluate his entire career. I think he gives us depth, particularly in the middle there, in the trenches, like we talk about we need. There's another guy that if you can get him on a team-friendly deal or at least not overpaying, you could keep him in the fold for sure. And I feel the same way about Ballantyne for that matter, but I'd have the same argument like Jacob was just saying with Stokes. There's other corners already in the building that you could give those reps to. And then possibly whoever we pick up in the draft. So not opposed to either of those guys coming back. I'm just opposed to giving them too big of a contract, too long.
Mm-hmm. In the chat, they seem to be pretty much on board with Slayton for the right price. Randy Cleaver's always liked Slayton. Wolfman, is Slayton cheap? if Slayton is cheap due to the penalty, let's get him back. J. Cole said 2 years, $6 to $8 million. That's going to fall in that, like I said, $3 million per range. His cap hit last year, if I remember correctly, was a little over $3 million, I think, or this year, I should say. So you'd be kind of getting him back for the same price per year. You could structure it in a way that you get out of the second year if you need to. That's if he doesn't, warrant a big contract. How you feel about TJ Slayton? Did you hit on that already, Jacob, or no?
I mean, yeah, I would prefer to have Slayton back if the money's right. And like Tim said, I wouldn't mind Ballantyne's, just with as much young talent as we have. I think he's going to be pushing 30. I think he was 28 this year, if I'm not mistaken. So that to me just doesn't make as much sense. For Slayton, I mean, just who is going to replace him? Who is our big, beastly, kind of Gilbert Brown-esque? I always think of like Gilbert Brown. Remember the Williams wall, the Pat and Kevin Williams, when they had them for the Vikes, that, when that was that duo. I just wish we had a couple of just absolute thunder buckets there, and TJ Slayton's as close as we got right now. So
yeah, definitely. And we have a comment here from Holmes MD1. Holmes, I'm not saying you're wrong here, but I think we're looking at two different things. 2025 free agent list according to Spot Track. He says Slayton's cap hit next year is under $1 million. He's a restricted free agent. And we're actually showing him here, as you can see, he is an unrestricted free agent at 27 years old. Now, his average annual was $940,000, but keep in mind his cap hit this year, I guess because they had shifted some of the cap space around, was somewhere around $3 million. And I always like to look at, as players are exiting the team, what was their most recent cap hit, and were they worth that cap hit that was allocated to the salary cap that current year? But unless I'm missing something here, guys, am I overlooking something here? Slayton's cap hit next year is under $1 million. He's a restricted free agent. I thought he was a unrestricted free agent, as Spot Track sitting there. So, okay, there you go. Holmes said, there you go. I see Clayton. Okay, cool. Glad we got that straightened out, man. I was just making sure you might have seen something I didn't, right? And Spot Track definitely can make mistakes just like I can. That's for sure. So, all right, good stuff. And when you looked at his salary cap, this is what I was talking about. Hopefully this doesn't throw everything off, because I want to keep this list up. This is what we were talking about with his salary cap hit. His base salary basically was put to $3.1 million is what it was showing in 2024. I'm not sure exactly why that was, but just wanted to point out that's what that was. Let me see if I can get back to that free agent list and let's comb through, because what Dara Carragher did there I thought was awesome, just talking about the snaps, right? Because that's the most important thing is, all right, who eat up most of the snap count this year? Here is your free agent list. And I think it's sorted by previous average annual value. Okay. So that's basically you take the whole contract, average it out over the amount of years, and that gives you their average annual value. It doesn't necessarily mean that was their cap hit at any point. It's just a good way of globally looking at the contract and the value there. I like that they've got it sorted by that, because you guys know, as I always say, you want to see somebody's priorities, show them your checkbook, right? Checkbook and your calendar. That'll show you the most important things in your life. Eric Stokes, $2.9 million was his average annual value. He's a free agent. A.J. Dillon, $2.7 million. Corey Ballantyne, $2.1 million. Josh Myers, $1.3 million. Listen, Josh Myers underperformed, but at no point did he tie up a lot of cap space, right? It's worth mentioning that. He was available, and he did not eat up a whole lot of cap space. Eric Wilson, $1.3 million. Money well spent there, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, that's a guy, again, if you can get him back for 1.3, probably won't. Right. He's kind of in that, to me, Tim, he's in that $2 to $6 million range for me too on a 2-year deal. Like, if you can get him somewhere $2 to $3 million per, I think it would be important to get him back on this team, man.
I agree, especially since you got Quay and Coop right now, right, for the relatively cheap for the time being. I would agree with that. And like Jacob said, Wilson, another guy that's kind of creeping up on that wrong side of 30, that dreaded age in the NFL. But Wilson is one of those guys that is just he's like that tool that you keep in the toolbox. You've had it for years. It never fails you. It's super reliable. It's not going to do anything super fancy, but it's not going to make mistakes. And I think that's Eric Wilson. And I'm with you, Clay. I think if we get him somewhere in the ballpark of something reasonable enough that is team friendly, I don't see why we don't hang on to a guy like that.
Yeah. Next, Andre Dillard, $1.1 million. Jacob Sky, Tyler Davis at $1 million flat. Zane Anderson, $997,000. TJ Slayton, $940,000 again annual average, although it was showing the cap hit of $3 million last year. And then, of course, we'll get in the exclusive rights free agents here in just a second. So these are the guys you cannot stop from hitting free agency unless you work out a new deal. Okay. Jacob, you have the floor here with this whole list, and maybe specifically try to key in on that latter half that we haven't talked about yet in terms of, these guys, Zane Anderson, all those guys. I'll try to get Bo off the screen so it doesn't, oh Lord, doesn't confuse too much here.
Yeah, I mean, I was one of those people that obviously didn't believe Zane Anderson was a real human, and then it's been nice.
Don't put
It's been
that
nice
name
seeing
in my
him.
mouth right there.
I realize he is a little older, though. He's 28 right now, so come the beginning of the season, he's going to be closer to 30, like we've just talked about. We're so deep at the safety position. I wouldn't mind having him back to have that floor again,
Right.
and so the special teams ace. But it's not anything where I'm not going to lose sleep over Zane Anderson. Tyler Davis, I think he's kind of not play. His lack of availability, I think, is what's going to probably get him off the team. We've seen, obviously, they like guys for whatever reason. Fitzpatrick, Sims, obviously Musgrave, and Kraft. I think that right there is your top four, no matter how good at sift blocking he is. And then with Dillard, it was a fun experiment. I don't need to see anymore. I just think his time is probably done.
I got you. All right. Yeah. So for me, it's real simple, man. For the right price, there's many of these guys I wouldn't mind having back to kind of set the floor. And what I mean by right price, guys, it means you can cut them. If you knock the draft out of the park, then you cut them during camp. They're a camp casualty. And here's the thing, you're protecting yourself too. Let's say you do draft someone and one of those young draft picks gets hurt in camp. You've got a backup plan with a guy who's already been in the system, right? For the right price. So Eric Stokes, that's a no for me. And again, I think he's going to warrant more money on the market because of his athleticism. That's just me personally. A.J. Dillon, I would say no. Corey Ballantyne, I'm probably leaning toward no because I'd rather see what Caitlin King could do with real NFL time as opposed to Corey Ballantyne. You guys know I was the president of the Ballantyne fan club coming into the year, right? The coaches obviously seen something they didn't like. Josh Myers is in the same category as Eric Stokes for me, that I personally think his athleticism, if the leg is healthy, and they can convince teams that, hey, going into free agency, he's going to be just fine for camp. I think he'll get a little more of an offer than we're willing to pay, me personally. Goody may disagree. Eric Wilson, I want to get back. That's a guy that I would go to early and go, hey, man, before you hit the market, here's what we're thinking. I'm looking at $2.5 million per. Let's say a 3-year deal, $2.5 million per. People go, Clayton, he's 30 years old. Structure it in a way where that first year he gets quite a bit of guaranteed money of that, whatever it is, $6 million. Let's call it a 3-year deal, worth $7 million, right? And let's maybe guarantee $4 million of it. That way, if it is just a one and done, he hits the wall, he can't contribute on special teams anymore, then you can cut bait with $1.5 million cap penalty, something like that, and you only paid him $3 million that year. It's kind of what you're looking at, right? So I'd like to see Eric Wilson back. Andre Dillard, man, good luck to you. I just don't see the value there. Tyler Davis, 2 years in a row, injured reserve. Hey, he will go down as the sift block GOAT, right? Yep. But look at Jake. But, boy, the injury concern is just too much for me, man. Thank you for your service. Zane Anderson, same type of thing. The value that he shows on special teams and the way he was able to fill in at safety, I put somewhere around $2 million on him, something like that, and have it in a way that you can get out of it in a year or two if you need to. TJ Slayton, I want back for $3 million per. I'd be willing to go to him right now and go, hey, man, let's go 3 years, $9 million, $6 million fully guaranteed, $5 million fully guaranteed, something along those lines. Because I think you could really benefit from him being back. He was more effective than Kenny this year, guys.
I agree. I think TJ and Eric Wilson are the two on this list, Clayton, like you said, that you want to probably try and go to early. And, maybe you stop them from hitting that market, just get a deal done. We can talk about Eric Wilson being older and all these things. That's your green dot when Quay's not out there, right? So if you're trying to, identify your future in the middle there, and we've got Edrin Cooper, who I think we'd all agree that will probably be the guy wearing a green dot at some point in his NFL career. It's good to have a veteran linebacker like an Eric Wilson in that room when you've got young talent around him, and you can kind of balance things out a little bit. So I would say out of that list, the two you want to go to early are probably Eric Wilson and TJ Slayton.
Yeah, agreed. And that's what you're doing at this stage. You're prioritizing that, right? And you're going to tell Josh Myers and Eric Stokes, go test the market. In the back of your mind, you're going, we're probably not even going to make them an offer. But if they come back and go, I didn't get any offers. All right, cool, man. Welcome back. $1.8 million. Come on back into the fold here, right? That's the way that works. Let's go to the chat, see what everybody's thinking here. Prince in the chat, Zane may be headed back to the unreal realm. That's the other thing. I don't think Zane put enough tape out there that teams are going to be lining up to sign him, right? It sucks that he got the concussion, but that concussion keeping him out the last two games of the year almost played into the Packers' hands of not a lot of teams got to see what he could really do, you know?
Yep.
Chad Inc. says, did you guys see Eli's tweet earlier? Talking about what? No, Eli wasn't twerking, okay, guys, on Twitter. I think he's talking about Eli Berkovich, right? I imagine.
Probably. Yeah.
Tweet earlier that the Packers are interested in signing T. Higgins. Not sure what to think about that. Is T. Higgins a guy you want to go after? Thoughts? Me personally, at this stage, I don't want to say either way. I may not be opposed to it. I got to look into the tape a little bit. I got to look into his injury history. You know, there's many people that are saying he stays banged up. You know, if that's the case, you got to be wary of overpaying someone that's just going to sit on the bench, you know, because they're constantly hurt. You know, everybody like to give, like Tim said, everybody like to give Christian Watson. Hell, he played in 15 games this year, right?
Yep.
And the other thing is, what's Christian Watson's salary cap hit, and what would T. Higgins' salary cap hit be to sit on the bench?
And is Higgins unrestricted or is he restricted?
We'll comb into that as we get, like I said, you know, into a couple, maybe even later on tonight. That might be something to look into. But yeah, he says, for me, I'm not saying either way. I don't have. It'd be ignorant for me to comment either way right now, if that makes sense. You guys got an answer for that question there.
I don't want it. I'm used to not paying receivers any amount of money. I don't know what it would do for the receiver room if all those guys that have came up together on rookie contracts, all of a sudden you just got some dude that walks in here, he's got the bag thrown at him, whatever that would be. I mean,
that's the real thing.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and he hasn't earned it, you know, in that room. And as far as this and that, I'd rather go through the draft again. We've proved that we can draft very, very well. Give me a Luther. What's that dude's name? Luther, the wide receiver from college. I think his name's like Luther something with a B. That guy looks crazy good. I'll take that.
If you hit on one of those guys, like you're saying, Jacob, the cap hits down for 4 years, right? So,
right. Yeah,
that's a good point. It is, and guys, make no mistake. If T. Higgins makes it to the free market, somebody's going to overpay for it. You're going to have to overpay.
Money. Yep.
Yeah.
And see, that's
is he elite? Is he top tier elite?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Right. So
again,
I don't want to overpay for good, right? You overpay for great.
Right. That's what we'd have to determine. If I did a deep dive on T. Higgins, I'd go, okay, you hit the nail on the head, Tim. Let's classify him. Is he good or is he great? If he's great, you might be willing to overpay, but keep in mind, positions of importance. Did we lose this game against Philly because we didn't have a great wide receiver? I don't think we did. I think we lost this game because we kept turning the ball over, and we got our asses kicked in the trenches on both sides. That's what I think.
Yep.
You know, does it mean that you make that decision based off of that one playoff game? No, but it is a pretty important piece of the puzzle of why can we not beat those top tier teams, right? What comes to mind? Think of the Lions. Why did we lose to the Lions? We got our ass kicked in the trenches.
Yep.
Why did we lose to the Vikings? Felt like we got our ass kicked in the trenches. Kind of felt that way, you know? Why did we beat the Bears and then lose to the Bears there at the end? I don't know. God hated us this year. That's the only thing I can go. No, I'm joking out there. Don't put your stones back in your robes there, guys. It was just a joke. But yeah, Chad, we'll dive into that again. I don't feel comfortable answering that either way without enough information. You know, Holmes MD1. I mistakenly thought Slayton was a restricted free agent. I would keep him for the right price for sure. We're on the same page there, Holmes. Appreciate that. Wolfman. P.S. This is what to do after a postseason loss. Feels productive versus crying. Haha. Yeah, there's and you got to understand how the game's played, Wolfman. When you're creating content, the shock value gets clicks. The shock value gets views, and the shock value gets a lot of comments, right?
Did you see all the clickbait going into the game where they're like, Packers make crazy move at quarterback before playoff matchup? And it's like, they elevated Sean Clifford. It's like, okay, clickbait.
Just real quick, guys, chat, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this information is correct. T. Higgins, his overall grade this year was an 88.2. He was 5th out of 98 wide receivers. His receiving grade was an 88.3. He was 7th among 98 wide receivers. So
top 10, right?
When he's healthy, he is legit.
Yeah. Yeah,
so how many games did he play?
10 tutters this year, just under 1,000 yards, 73 receptions.
So he had under 1,000. He had under 1,000 yards.
Just under 911 yards.
Okay, so he had like maybe 100 yards more than Jaden Reed. What? How many games did he play, Jacob? Were you able to find that, man? That's the main thing I'm concerned about.
That's what I'm looking for.
I am actually trying to find that as well. I can't quite see on this one here. Maybe the chat let us know if you can find how many games he played this year.
I'll look real quick. I'll just go to NFL Pro, man. Give me just a second. Let me put that up. You guys talk about anything. Let me see if I can find. He's the Bengals, right? Bengals.
Yeah, and I mean he's doing that on a team that has Jamar Chase as well, which is kind of
that's a great point.
Impressive.
12 games, 12, 1-2.
Yeah,
and he only started 9, which we know that means he might have come out in 12 personnel. Well, if he only started 9. Even if they were in 12 or 21 personnel, that means there was another receiver on the field.
Yeah.
Boys, listen, if the fan base is this distraught about Christian Watson only playing in 15 games, T. Higgins played in 12.
Shout out to Nick McSwain trolling. We win yesterday if Clifford was quarterback. Changed my mind. I love it. Trolling in the morning.
Nothing like trolling in the morning. So, yeah, on the surface with T. Higgins, that's kind of a red flag for me, right? Like, let me pull up his. Now, don't get me wrong, he was more productive than Christian Watson with those limited numbers of games, right? I can see the value there. When we started talking T. Higgins, and Lincoln is not happy. I don't know if y'all can hear him or not. He is hot. He's like, what the hell are we doing ruining this cap with T. Higgins? 2023. Yeah, here we go, guys. This is great. Let's start his whole year, okay, starting in 2020. This is how many games he played in. So this is how many games he was healthy. 16, 14, 16. So far, so good, right? 2023, 12. 2024, 12. So the last 2 years, he has only played in 12 games, all right? And his yards in 2023, 656 yards and 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, 2022 was his last 1,000-yard season.
Yeah, in 2024, 911 yards with 10 touchdowns, but again, only played in 12 games. So he had a much better season this year, right?
I mean, he's also on an offense with Jamar Chase as well.
Yeah, that feels like, I don't know, boys. That feels like one of those contracts. And again, we haven't done a deep dive. It kind of feels like one of those contracts that you give somebody the bag and you look up at 2 years and go, we got to cut him. This ain't working. Like you know what I'm saying? Am I being too critical here? Maybe I'm gun shy on that. I don't know, man. Like Coach Lynn said, that's with Chase getting all the targets too. It's a good point. It's a valid point for sure. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. Anything else you guys want to add to the T. Higgins talk? I didn't have that on my bingo card this morning. But, hey, the free agency.
I mean, either. You know what? I'll tell you what. I didn't have it on my bingo card either. But we had Tay Adams talk on our bingo card a couple of days ago, and if you made me pick one of those two guys, I'd rather pay and have Tay come back at this point.
Yeah, because it would be one of those 1 or 2 year deal type things that T. Higgins, you're probably going to have to give a 4-year deal with a bunch of guaranteed money, right?
Yep.
That's a real thing. Let me go to Eli's page. I want to see if he gave a source for this.
Shout out to Holmes. Jacob, thank you for putting that up. Tay is still better and more experienced than Higgins. He knows the culture, players, and system. Good point. Mm-hmm. Totally valid point.
So Eli's tweet here says, let me just pull it up. I want to give him full credit for this, and you guys make sure that you're following. I'm sure you're following him. If you're following us, you're definitely following Eli. He's one of the best Packer follows there is. And when he says something, it makes me kind of perk my ears up because he's not just going to say something that's not true, right? Yep. There's at least going to be somebody thinks it's true, whether it's true or not. And listen, we're not going to be that fan base on this show that goes and roasts someone if they get something wrong. But Eli says that the Packers are expected to, quote, covet T. Higgins and will be in the hunt to sign him. I'm absolutely certain this won't end in disappointment, is what Eli said. And it says Packers linked to T. Higgins, Green Bay expected to be in the hunt for the wide receiver. Now, let me explain to you what this could be. I have no reason to think this is 100% factual, what I'm about to say. But what happens is when a player is getting ready to hit the market, you know what happens? His agent will go to the media and say, hey, we got this team, that team, this team is all interested, right? Now, Why don't the team, Clayton? Why don't the team step out and go, that's not true? Why would they? Why would they? If they say it's not true, now the player's pissed at them going, well, they don't really want me, right? If it is true, if it isn't true in another regard, you drive up the price for other teams because they think, oh, crap, other teams are interested. So
that's definitely something we see every year, right? Mm-hmm. That's a part of what happens in this league for sure. All teams do that. They play that game.
Yeah. And Jacob had to run. Appreciate you, man. Have a great day, Bob. It was good talking ball with you.
Thanks, Beard. So he's going to shop for tattoo artists on his lunch break today.
Yeah, we need to get that in the books. I love that he's being a good sport about it. Again, if he backs out, I'm not going to hold it again.
He's not going to back out. Are you kidding? Jacob's a man of his word, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah, we'll make it fun for sure. All right. So anything else you want to hit on here, Tim, before we wrap up, man? Anything at all?
Yeah, shout out to J. Cole. He touched on what we talked about earlier. Just watch that Baz video. 50-year-old middle-aged man acting like that. Baz has great self-control. I would have went to jail. Amen, J. Cole. I'd have been there with you, brother.
Yeah, amen to that. Yeah, it's just, like I said, the best thing we can do as a fan base, tweet that around. Let's find that knucklehead and see if the Eagles have enough class in their organization to ban that dude for life from the stadium for doing that. So that's about all you can do. So, all right. That's it, guys. We're going to get out of here. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us. This was fun, man. Look, last night was a tough loss. I feel like we did really good as a fan base in the postgame show. Everybody kind of got it off their chest. We talked about the negative. We hit on what happened. Why did it happen? We had some gripes with the officiating. We also, the questions got raised about Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur. There's many fans saying they want LaFleur fired. I'm going to put a Twitter poll out later. And I'm going to put a Twitter poll for the evening show if I can remember, Tim. If I don't, remind me. I want to know how many of our viewers and how much of the fan base on Twitter that specifically follows me that thinks Matt LaFleur should be fired, because I think that's a loud minority. I could be wrong. We may look up and it might be 80% of the fans go, all right, we're over LaFleur. Could be the case. You guys know that's not me. Tim, you don't think we should fire LaFleur, right?
No, are you kidding?
Very clear about this. So. King Tron with the super chat. Tay didn't shy away from the pack in the interview, man. Hey, I think there's a legit shot for that. I do. And to me, Devontae Adams fits our offense more than like a T. Higgins. A T. Higgins is a jump ball receiver. He's that guy that, hey, just that play to Dontavion Wicks last night, T. Higgins
all day.
Probably makes that play, right? There's a good chance. Now, Slay's a good veteran corner too. But, I don't think LaFleur is just going to draw up many plays to go, all right, let's just take a shot, throw that one-on-one here. I think it's more about trying to scheme guys open. And I hope we get back to under center. We can finally roll out Jordan Love's knee going into next year. If we don't see more play action under center next year, we can't blame the knee. And we got to say, all right, LaFleur's just wanting to drop back passer. If that's the case, based off the numbers we've seen, it's going to get loud with Jordan next year. And I think rightfully so, because the numbers were bad in drop back passing. But also, kind of feels like you built an offense to be a play action wide zone boot scheme. That's the other thing Mark Tauscher was talking about in their post-game show. Thought it was an excellent point. You ran a lot of duo this year. You didn't run a lot of outside stretch. So if you're going to run outside stretch, that's where the boot comes into play. So if you're going to go play action off duo, it's a little more difficult to do play action off a duo because defensive lines can read this is not a double-double. They're setting up for play action. So,
and you're right. And that's why I got a little excited in the game when we started running some strong toss. Did you see that? We had a couple of tosses to Jacobs, and it's like, you're kind of feigning that outside run a little bit. And I thought, oh, cool, we're going to see a play action boot here real soon. And it never came.
Never happened.
Yeah.
Never happened. And again, thank you for the super chat, Tron. Appreciate you, buddy. Ron Samuel says, Expo, not a very good representation of all fans. Rough crowd in my eyes. It depends on whose Twitter following it is, man.
So true.
I've really, really tried to clean mine up. If you go to my Twitter, just take a second and look at my X, and go through it. You're not going to see shock value tweets. You're not going to see, let me try to get people rowdy. You're not going to see a lot of combativeness, right?
When I first came over to that platform, I was like, oh, yeah, you're a Packer fan. If it's Packers in your bio, I'm totally following you. Now it's like, yeah, bro, got to clean up the old algorithm.
Yeah, sure. Definitely. So that's what I've done. I've blocked a lot of people. And it's not that, I just want I want my Twitter to be, hey, these are reasonable football fans that understand the game and not just spouting out with, overly negative stuff just to be loud or they're upset. You know what I mean? Because I'm looking to grab value out of that, right? Like I'm looking to use Twitter as a, hey, all right, here's however many voices it is. If I've got, we got like 15,000 followers. If 5,000 of those truly pay attention, I want to bounce something off you guys. I don't want to be bouncing it off the knucklehead that's, is dragging his knuckles down the street and doesn't understand what, the difference between.
Let's be honest, it's a necessary evil. If you want to connect with the NFL, Twitter's, X, whatever. I still call it Twitter. I'm old, but that's the platform you want to be on. If you want information up to the second, you're gonna get it there. Good, bad, ugly, and everything in between. It's all there. You just got to sort it out.
No doubt about it, man. Ron Sell says true, Clay. Yeah, it's how you utilize the tool, right? And if there's people that hear my voice that use Twitter to get that shock value and have the laughs and have the arguments, they have at it. It's just not how I use it. Coach Lynn says we don't have the jump ball guy. I think Love could benefit from a guy like that. We could have last night. That's one thing we could have. Again, I don't think it's why we lost the game. Not that you're saying that, Coach, but we definitely could have benefited from last night.
But can you pay all that money that a guy like T. Higgins is going to demand for a jump ball guy? That's the question.
If you go pay him all that money, then we can't complain, 2 years from now when we don't have that true 3 tech, right?
And none of that means a hill of beans if you don't have a center either.
Yep. That's a very good point. Centers toward the top of the list, especially after last night, and seeing just the lack of depth on the interior offensive line again, which kind of validated that Jordan Morgan pick and what Goody was thinking. Like,
I agree.
We need some more depth on this offensive line.
Makes sense why they moved him over to guard right away too during initial just workouts and everything. Yeah,
definitely. Tim, thank you for your time, man. This was fun.
Thanks, Clay. Thanks for having me, man. Best way to deal with a loss, right?
Absolutely. Shout out to King Tron with the super chat. Josh Martin with the super chat. King Tron also gifted one Packer Fan Total Access membership. Ron Samble with the super chat and King Tron again. Thank you all so much for supporting the show. We are looking for Fractal of God. Fractal of God has 2 different names. I think he's got 3 different names. A different name in Patreon, a different name on Twitter, and a different name on YouTube. It's Fractal of God on YouTube, I believe. So reach out as soon as you hear this. I also put a little bird call out in the Patreon group. We need to get you your autographed Carl Brooks picture. Okay. We're going to have other giveaways coming up here real soon. The giveaways are not going to stop just because it's the off season. We want to continue to give back to those who are supporting the channel. If you're a member on YouTube or you're a member in the Patreon group, one of the 3 tiers, we just like to give a little something back to you guys and gals for, like I said, just being awesome, loyal listeners and viewers. So that being said, we'll see y'all tonight, 7 p.m. Central. Everybody have a great day. Talk to you.
And we go. We out.
Bye, guys.